Willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome. I'm Rob Doherty, and this is the FSTVS Podcast Executive Edition, supported by Liberry Consulting and hosted by Julian Scott, the animation consultant for Film London. In this podcast series, we'll be chatting to the movers and the shakers in the animation industry, and discovering a little bit more about what they do, how they got there, their thoughts on the animation industry, and I hope get to meet the person behind that executive title. A self-confessed yoga disciple, today's guest Sueann Rochester brings that mindfulness, measured approach and, dare I say, flexibility to her role as co-founder and CEO of Wild Child Animation in Stirling, Scotland. Full disclosure, Sueann is one of my favourite people in the industry, so I was particularly pleased to snag her for a chat with Julian, as she really is quite shy. Until you get to know her, and then you'll find out where the Wild Child name comes from. I kid, of course. But this is a thoughtful and fun conversation that digs into Sueann's passion not only for the industry, but more importantly for the people in the industry, her role in the Scottish animation industry in particular, and the need for great partners across the world for co-productions. I'm sure you'll enjoy this episode, especially the part where I'm signed up in absentia to an Annecy yoga session. Yeah, right. With my back. Good luck.
Sueann, welcome to the FSTVS Executive Sessions podcast.
Hi Julian, thanks for having me.
Now, you're the CEO and co-founder of Stirling-based Wild Child Animation, and you say you're driven by a love of all things animated, together with a need to organise everyone. You've delivered to clients like Cartoon Network, Disney, BBC, and produced BAFTA and EMMY-nominated series such as Dennis and Gnasher and Ask Lara, and the BAFTA-winning The Brilliant World of Tom Gates for Sky Kids. Now, it's rumoured that when you're away from your desk, you can be found balancing on your head. Is there a connection between that statement and the name of the studio, Wild Child?
I'm actually amazed that question hasn't come up before. There is no connection, sadly. I am not the Wild of the Wild Child. Our creative directors came up with that name because we started out as the North Star Picture Company. And I'm so grateful for the fact that they suddenly realised that that was awful and that we should not have that name. But they left it until we were about to launch the website and everything. So it was very last minute and I'm not over it. But thankfully they were given 24 hours to go away and come up with a new name. And they came back with Wild Child, which I think, I think it suits us. We're not necessarily the wildest of individuals, but as a team, I think we're doing some pretty wild things.
Now, you say you're not the wildest of studios, but you have to tell me a little bit more about this balancing on your head thing.
Yes, so I've practiced yoga since I was in art school, and when my youngest daughter was born, she's now 11, I decided to quit animation altogether. I was like, it's too much, and I became a yoga teacher. And I taught yoga for 4 years before being lured back into the dark side of animation. And I still teach yoga once a week. Every week, I'm like, I'm not going to do it anymore. It's too much. And then I go and I teach a class, and I have 15 people who all say thank you and are very happy about me giving them my time. So I'm like, actually, I can't give up on that. It's quite addictive.
Bit like animation then, because you get so much thanks in animation for everything that you do, don't you?
Yeah, there's definitely not enough of that in the day job. It's my real passion. My goal is to make millions out of animation and then have a yoga studio on a beach somewhere. Obviously, it's a pipe dream.
I was going to say that sounds completely achievable because that's what so many people have done already. Now, looking back to sort of earlier in your life, which was probably around the time you were the right way up, did cartoons significantly influence you? Were there, animated films or series that as a youngster you look forward to watching?
Yes, I was a little bit obsessed with Danger Mouse. That was the one that used to, I had the week completely scheduled for that slot. I had to get home from school, get all my snacks, and be ready to watch it. So that was the one. And things like Count Duckula. I was a fan of Looney Tunes as well. So it was like more kind of comedy, zany cartoons. But yeah, it was never like with a goal of working in animation. It was just that was just, fun telly that I like to watch. I grew up, my dad was in the army, so I grew up in Germany, and we had one TV station. So the slots for cartoons were sacred. So the week was heavily structured, and if I missed Danger Mouse, wasn't pretty.
It was not a good thing. Now,
No.
you said that sort of cartoons and stuff like that sort of didn't figure as I don't know, sort of something you could do when you were a grown up. But as you journeyed through your education, through school, when was the moment that you thought, actually, maybe I can combine this passion I've got as a viewer for something I could do as a career?
It wasn't until I didn't finish my A-levels, a lot to do with my parents leaving Germany and me being at school over there. So I came back to Glasgow and I did a design with new technologies course because I had wanted to be an architect, or at least that's, you know, what I thought. I'm not even convinced I knew what an architect was at the time. And there was a module on that course for animation, and then that kind of blew my mind. I was like, oh, okay, actually, this is a thing. I could do it as a job. So because of that one module, I then looked into what degree courses there were, and that's what took me to Edinburgh College of Art. So it was just by chance, really.
And what did you do at Edinburgh? What was your course there?
Animation.
It was animation, right?
Yeah, and it was quite old school. It was very much pencil and paper on light boxes, with peg bars. Yeah, there was no computers. Actually, while I was studying, the first computer room was put in place, with those, the big, colourful Macs that they had. That had the big bulbous backs.
Mm-hmm.
There's a room full of them, and no one knew how to use them. So I didn't really go in there for 3 years.
Oh, how things have changed.
Yeah.
And so I mean, how did the course manifest itself? You said it was very much pen and paper, pencil and paper and light boxes and stuff like that. Were you, I don't know, did it start literally on day one with here's a pencil, here's a paper, draw something?
No, it started. Luckily, I had a classmate, Dave Turbot. I don't know if he'll listen to this, but he is very much in the industry. I rocked up and had no idea even what a peg bar was, and luckily he took me under his wing and gave me lots of sage advice on what to do, because the course wasn't very structured. It was like a course for filmmakers. So you went and you found yourself, and that was never really going to be me. So the course, I spent most of it watching Neighbours and eating cheese sandwiches with my friend Amber. So I think from very early in that course, I knew that I was never destined to be an animator. I didn't have the attention span, but I loved the medium. I loved the industry. I loved the people. So I knew I was in the right world. I just wasn't going to be an animator.
And there are, I mean, some famous examples of people who basically couldn't, I'm not saying you can't draw, but couldn't draw. I mean, Walt Disney himself was, allegedly not actually able to draw, but was able to, he loved the business and he loved the people, very similar to yourself, managed to create that industry which is going to make you a millionaire so you can become a yoga teacher on the beach. So when did it, you said you love the people, you love the industry, you loved everything about it. When did it start to fall into place as a profession?
I was really lucky, actually. On my course at Edinburgh College of Art, one of the tutors, Rachel Bevan Baker, was one of the co-owners of Red Kite. And as soon as she must have seen something in me, so as soon as I graduated, she brought me in to be an assistant animator on a short film they were making for the botanical gardens, and I scraped through that. I didn't lose the job, and I managed to animate a rabbit running across the screen, so it wasn't disastrous. But I found myself in the production office there all the time. So once that role finished, it was suggested that maybe a production assistant role would be more suited to me, and that was it. So I was right place at the right time, really. Yeah, I was given the opportunity to I was production assistant on the Loch Ness Kelpie, which was a short film made by Ian Gardner. And then I moved into a production manager role really quickly. And then a TV series came in and it just spiraled.
And you mentioned a couple of people then. Forgive me, as we're chatting, I don't remember the names, but there was the guy who was on the course with you and the lady who was co-founder of Red Kite who spotted something in you. Do you think you've been lucky enough to have sort of key mentors like that throughout your career?
Yeah, I mean, I'm mentioning them as specifics now, but I think there's been hundreds. I think this industry is really special in that most of the people you meet are supportive and want to see you succeed. So they're, um, yeah, and even now they're, like Janet and Amy from Liberty and Rob from Festivus are key people that I think I rely on to help me with advice and even just friendship, because as you know, sometimes this industry is quite tough, but I think there are lots of people you can lean on. And when I first came back, actually after 4 years, I teaching yoga, Alison Warner was there, and I felt like I called her a lot to just make me realize that I was doing the right thing by coming back and that it's all okay. So yeah, I think yeah, if I could sit here for hours naming all the people that heavily influence my day to day, but also then now at Wild Child, I'm surrounded by people that I learn from all the time, like really inspiring creatives, my business partners, our clients. We're just very fortunate to work in this world, I think.
A lot of people have said on these podcasts about how much the people matter in the industry. What a lovely industry it is to be in. I mean, technically, you could say everybody is a competitor, really. There are lots of studios out there all competing for the same kind of business, but it's always felt very, very supportive. And as you say, there are people out there that you can go and chat to who can give you advice, you can bounce ideas off. But it also sounds like you as a person are very open to that and very you sort of drive that yourself. It sounds like you sort of go out and seek advice and not and guidance or bounce ideas off people. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, certainly in the role that I'm in now, it's quite a lonely place. And I think I rely on other people and not necessarily their opinions, but just to kind of bounce ideas off and feel confident that I'm doing the right thing, because I feel responsible for lots of people now, and I want to be making good choices for all of them. Um, and yeah, so and I know that I don't have all the answers, and there are lots of really smart people out there. So I'm more than happy to go to them and say, I have no idea what I'm doing. Please, can you help me? And everyone says yes. If you do it with real integrity, uh, yeah, then I think people are really, really kind and generous with their time.
I agree, and I think that the Festivus social events that seem to be proliferating across the globe at the moment, you find that very much. I go to them when I can, and it's a very collegiate environment where there's people at all different stages in their animation career, and there are people sort of entry level, and you end up talking to people who, I don't know, just want to work in animation or have just finished a course or something and want to know more about it. And it's quite nice as you get a bit more of what do they call it, a veteran producer, to be able to impart some of that knowledge back. Now you've been very, very loyal to your Scottish roots throughout your career. You mentioned that when you were younger, you lived in Germany. And I know you sit on the board of Animation Scotland and work hard to achieve global recognition for Scottish animation. But has there ever been a desire to work further afield? Any sort of big offers from studios in the States or elsewhere that have ever been attractive?
Yeah, there's been a couple. I was offered a role on a feature film in France, um, oh, must be close to 20 years ago now, and I bottled it and said no.
Did
Yeah, I think it took me quite a while to be confident in myself. One place I did want to go to is Australia. We co-produced with Sticky Pictures 2 seasons of Dennis and Gnasher, and I was so lucky to be able to travel there a few times while we were in production. And I would have, in a heartbeat, moved out there, but yeah, then life got in the way. I had kids. We decided that moving to the other side of the world maybe wasn't going to happen. But yeah, Australia would be good.
but what's it about Scotland that's, I know you're Scottish, clearly, but, is so attractive about Scotland, as a base for animation, as a base for Wild Child? What is it that gives you that extra bit of something? Think, yeah, Scotland's the place for me.
I think again, it's the people. Yeah, everyone in Scotland kind of functions as a unit. Like we are competitors, but not really. And we all believe that the closer, um, the closer we work together, the bigger we can become. We're much more attractive, internationally. If people want to come to Scotland because they can see we've got a robust network. We've got lots of talent. We've got enthusiastic, adaptable creatives. We also have the additional funding from Screen Scotland. So there's a lot going on here. But yeah, the creation of Animation Scotland has made the world of difference here. We kind of work as one, which I really love.
And you mentioned Screen Scotland there, because they don't just sort of provide, I don't think they just provide development and production assistance, but they also do they sort of invest in business development and career development as well?
Not in business development. They give lots of business support and they're behind all of the businesses individually, as well as Animation Scotland. So they're a huge, huge support. Um, they do career development. So they will give training funding to allow us to support new talent or developing talent. When we were making season 2 of The Brilliant World of Tom Gates, they gave a chunk of training funding, which allowed us to hire a training manager, and we could then have trainees who were properly mentored and looked after, and not just put on a production. So that allowed us then to now have a department which has 2 people in it, and it's called the People and Culture team. And that evolved because of that opportunity from Screen Scotland. So we have dedicated team now who are over all trainees, interns. We're starting a new apprenticeship scheme at the end of the summer, also supported by Screen Scotland and Forth Valley College. So we're going to have 2 school leavers coming in, and they will get a qualification at the end of the 11 months and spend the whole time in the studio. So yeah, super exciting, but all because of the opportunity given by Screen Scotland. So yeah, we're very lucky to have them.
And is that training and that development of new and emerging talent important to you personally as well as a business?
Yeah, it is. And I'd say with every day that passes, it's almost becoming the most important thing to me. I don't know if that's because my kids are uh, at becoming teenagers and I'm wanting to create something and opportunities for them as they get older. But I think, yeah, to have a robust industry in Scotland, we need to kind of increase the talent base and have much more diverse voices. We still find that when we are recruiting, it's all still very much university educated entrants, and we actually want to go younger. So that's why we're starting the apprenticeship. We're trying to get into schools, try and bring in people who just wouldn't have the opportunity if we didn't provide it in the way that we are. Yeah, and it's a big driver for Wild Child as a whole.
There used to be, I don't know if it still exists, but there used to be a perception, and I say perception, of like a skills gap between graduates and what they've learned at university and what the industry actually needs. And I think there was a bit of sort of the industry expecting graduates to be able to do more than was reasonable and feasible once they came out of uni, and the universities and university training not being quite as in tune with what the industry needs as they could be. But it sounds like what you're doing with the apprenticeships and everything else and taking school leavers, that's going to be a much, much more productive and efficient and brilliant way of getting people with a passion for the sector into being sort of work ready. Would that be fair?
Yeah, and I think it's just different, isn't it? It's not replacing further higher education. I think it's just an additional route to catch the young people who would fall through the cracks and never have the opportunity. Um, our hope is that they will be much more work ready. After 11 months working in a studio, you would hope that the day after they finish, they could go straight on to a production. Um, I'm not really answering your question. So yes, it will help with that gap. There is always going to be a gap between education and industry, and some on-the-job training needed to get people started. We're working closely with universities like Duncan of Jordanston, where we've got mentorship schemes and students coming in during their course to work in the studio. And that is helping to really close the gap. We're doing practical courses with the master's students as well, where they are set a project by the team at Wild Child. They are reviewed throughout it, and then they come into the studio and pitch at the end. So all of those things are helping, not only for them to see what a studio is, how it runs, meet the people, but also for the institution to get a little bit more of an understanding of how we work and what we need. It's a big gap to fill though, right? But every little bit is helping to chip away. And yeah, for us to build a full Scottish crew here, which really is our goal. Scottish based, they don't have to be Scottish, obviously. We're not going that far. Then yeah, it's up to us. It's our responsibility to fill those skills gaps and to support the universities and schools. So we're flipping it on its head and making the changes ourselves.
This podcast is made possible thanks to the support of the awesome Liberi Consulting. Liberi offers specially tailored industry-related training courses. Check them out at libericonsulting.com. That's Liberi consulting.com. You can also find links to their fantastic courses on the Festivus website.
I was talking about, offers from further afield and things like that. And, your previous roles with Axis and Red Kite, who you mentioned earlier, were in Glasgow and Edinburgh. But when you co-founded Wild Child, I think you chose Stirling, which I'm sure is lovely. But why Stirling when there seems to be existing infrastructure in Glasgow and Edinburgh?
I'd like to say we put loads of thought into that. The reality is there were 6 of us, and none of us lived in the same place. And Once We're Farmers, which was owned by Will and Rory, 2 of the founders, were based in Codebase in Stirling. And we didn't have a better idea. So we're like, okay, well, let's just stay here. And that's worked really well for us, though, because we're still in the central belt of Scotland. It's not far from Edinburgh or Glasgow. It's not on the commuter trail, so that traffic, certainly for me, coming from Fife, is never bad. I can get a lovely drive through the countryside to get here. And also, it's been good to spread out a little bit. It's never healthy to have everything all clustered in the 2 big cities. And Stirling's gorgeous. We've got a castle, distilleries, mountains, and yeah.
Well, what's not to love? I'm on my way. Earlier in your career, you worked in development and production for quite a long time, and you were clearly extremely good at it. Going all the way back to that first job, where you said, you got the job as a production assistant, you sort of moved away from sort of animating rabbits, and became a production manager and stuff like that. But nowadays, I think your focus is more on building key partnerships and driving the business growth for Wild Child, which sounds a lot more sort of commercial oriented. Why and how and even when did you decide that was the next step for you?
Oh, yeah. I think what you're uncovering here is that I had no real plan for anything I've ever done. I just seemed to stumble into it. So there was never really a plan to have a studio as well. That was never in my kind of life goals. So once Wild Child started, we were so small that I had to be the producer of the shows in the beginning. But then as we grew, it became really clear that actually the core point of me was to make sure that the company kept work coming in. And so I needed to turn my attentions more externally, which I can't lie, it was not, it didn't come naturally to me. It wasn't something I'd necessarily even wanted to do. So it's been a little bit of a learning curve, and I did have some executive coaching to help me through this. We also hired Joyce Miller in LA to help with navigating, the wider world outside of Scotland and outside of the studio. But it has made a huge difference. I am loving it now. I do love being more strategic and thinking about the shape of the studio and the type of work that we want to do, both on originals and service. And it's out of necessity more than that is a dream. I do miss being hands-on with the shows. I do like the creative side, but I accept that at the moment my priority is the business side.
And clearly you're doing very, very well at it, in that role, despite I suppose your sort of nervousness is probably too strong a word, but, launching yourself into a new part of the sector, which maybe you didn't come from. So, could be a bit daunting to anybody, frankly. And how much you mentioned original and service work. What's the split between your developing and producing your own ideas versus the service work?
Do you want the dream or the reality?
A bit of both, please.
Okay. So the dream would be that we would have 50-50. The reality is at the moment it's 100% service. And obviously getting originals off the ground is a tricky thing in the current market. And also just in our evolution as well, we did 3 seasons of the Brilliant World of Tom Gates with Sky Kids and Tom Gates Entertainment. But we have been focusing on building the infrastructure and the pipeline of the studio and building the team. So I'd say more of the focus has gone on bringing in service work to allow us then to now think about what our originals should look like. And also finding out who Wild Child is, what makes a Wild Child show. We haven't got the answers to that yet, but we're going to be doing a lot of work this year on looking at what our originals department looks like. Ideally 50-50. But we'll take work as it comes just now. It's, you never know where the next show is going to come from. So you have to just be adaptable and agile and hopefully just keep the wheels turning.
Well, I was going to say, 100% of your work right now being paid service work is a good problem to have, frankly, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes, we have work. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
I'm happy with that, yeah.
Now, I think, how many people do you have working at Wild Child now?
That's a good question. We are over 150. Just now we're close to our peak. We've got 3 shows in production at the moment, so we are definitely the biggest we've been. I was going to try and give you an accurate answer there, but I cannot. Yeah, so up above 150 just now.
That's a lot of seats, isn't it? And there's been, you talked earlier on about how, your role now and the strategy and the growth of the company is very important because, you've got 150 mouths to feed, frankly. And there's been a lot of change in the last few years, audience behavior, how they consume content, and the potential of AI. And you've always advocated for emerging talent and innovation. Do you see these changes of the audience sort of migrating somewhere else and the potential of AI as an opportunity for new talent?
Yes. I mean, it's such a difficult question to answer, isn't it, at the moment, because everything is still changing, and no one knows the shape of how the industry is going to look, especially with AI, because the technology is evolving so quickly. But I think the reality is new talent are going to come in with a much better understanding of this new world. They consume the content in the places that we need to be. They will understand the technology and how to use AI better than we do. So I think new talent coming in with fresh ideas and that ability to use the new technologies, I think is going to be critical, because I'm certainly not the one to know how to work with it or how to adapt our pipeline accordingly. Yeah, I don't know if that even answered the question.
No, it does, absolutely, because I don't think myself, and this is just my opinion, there are answers either. I think there's absolutely no doubt that AI, is here. It's not coming, it's here. And the way that different organizations, use it is interesting. I was talking to somebody recently, because obviously the big thing, which again, I completely agree with, is the protection of individuals' copyright in terms of the learning process of AI. And I think that needs to be protected come what may. Somebody was saying that what they're doing is they're actually using their in-house talent to design everything and then using AI to animate things from that point onwards. Obviously, there's an impact there on people who do that side of it. But I don't know. But the hope is that people adapt, people change, people learn. So it becomes a tool rather than a threat.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, using it has to be seen as a tool, right? It's going to support the creativity. I think, the core creative talent still needs to be there, and it needs the understanding of how to make amazing things, to feed into then AI supporting it. Maybe it speeds the process up. Maybe it makes things a little bit cheaper. I mean, who knows what the possibilities are? I think that's the difficulty just now. No one quite understands what the impact is going to be on pipelines and budgets and department sizes. I think that's why it's so scary. But I think the possibilities with it are amazing, and we can't ignore it. You're right. It's here. And I think we have been ignoring it for a while because it's scary. So I think as a studio, we're doing lots of R&D projects to try and understand how we can use it so that it doesn't take away creativity. It doesn't infringe on copyright or anyone's IP. It just enhances and maybe takes away the really mundane tasks that are time consuming or labor intensive that no one wants to do. So yeah, we're looking at it from that perspective. It's like how can we streamline things and make our workflows much more efficient by using it as a tool.
No, fair enough. I think it's the right. I'm just getting my opinion. It sounds like the right way to go. I wanted to just something that's only just occurred to me actually. Ask you about sort of co-productions and things like that, because you obviously. I mean, well, I see you at various events like, Kids Screen, and I know you're going to Annecy and Children's Media Conference and things like that. In this world where financing projects is getting increasingly more challenging, how important do you think those co-productions or potential co-productions with European and partners further afield than Europe are these days?
I think it's critical. I mean, I think in reality it always has been, right? There was maybe a like kind of little bubble in the middle where streamers were 100% financing things, but in the UK we've always had to co-produce really to get the financing together. Um, so yeah, it's super critical. So for me, going to these markets is trying to find the right partners because it takes so long to make animation that you need to find people that you're really in tune with. And we've got a couple of things in development. So we've got co-development partners that we're working with. And I find that really, really exciting. It's like new energy, new creativity coming from different places. Obviously helps that, there's then extra funding that you can put together to bolster at that development phase. Critical. We also have a co-production, hopefully. So close to starting.
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
Hopefully in the next couple of months, and that's a 3-way co-production. So that one will be really exciting. But that's a show that just it wouldn't have been able to be financed if it had just been one of those parties.
And do you think finding the right partners in terms of sort of corporate culture and individuals is very important? Because you just said that it's going to be a 3-way co-production. So that's 3 lots of potentially conflicting ideas, of maybe creative ideas, production ideas and things like that. How do you go about sort of managing that sort of head of the UN kind of role?
Well, I mean, it's about just agreeing the work split. There's always going to be one of those parties who's the leader, right? Because the one that has the project originally, it's someone's to start with. So they tend to then be the driver of the production. And as long as there's a really clear work split and everybody knows their lanes and communication is good, then I mean, there's always blips, right? Because we're all human and that's the way it goes. But I think you can get a really good sense of people quite quickly in how you're pulling even the original calls of how could we work together. You can tell if they've got the same energy as you. And for us, it's like an ethical thing. Like, do they believe in the same things that we do? Are they good people? And if you're truly working with good people, then most issues can be talked through and worked out. I feel like as time goes by as well, I'm getting much better at going with my gut instinct.
Mm-hmm.
I think I made the wrong choices in the past based on money or it seems on paper to be the right thing to do, but I felt in my gut that it was a mistake and we've gone ahead regardless, and it was a mistake. So I think I'm much better at following my instincts these days.
I think that's a good way to go. I was talking to somebody who is an investor, provides corporate investment last week, and he described it as the smell test.
Yeah.
Which is like everything may look great on paper, everything stacks up. It's strategically, commercially, it's all fine, but you just gotta if it smells right, it probably is right, and if it doesn't, it probably. I'm not suggesting that when you go to Annecy, you spend a lot of time
just going to be sniffing everyone.
I think that's probably quite a good way to lose business, but I think the principle is a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's right. I might find another way of phrasing it though, because it doesn't sound like I'm going to be a creepy lady sniffing everyone. Yeah, gut instinct.
Gut instinct. I think that's a better way of describing it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go with your gut as ever.
Yeah.
Now we've been talking about your career and everything else, which has been extraordinary. And as we sort of start to wind up, I just wanted to ask you a few sort of final questions. Over the years, what do you think the best piece of advice you've ever been given was?
See, this is interesting because the best advice I've been given, I can't remember who gave me it, but it was to be a good person. And because this industry is so small and people move around so much that if you are not good people, it'll come back and bite you further down the line because you know, they may be an assistant to someone here, but then they could be a commissioning exec in 10 years' time and remember you. So I think that, and I think, although I wish I remembered who gave me that advice, I use it every day. It's like, yeah, I want to work with good people, but I want to be a good person and treat people, yeah, fairly with everything that I do.
And that's clearly the advice you would give anybody else.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's been integral, I think, to the way that I work. And I've worked with not good people in the past as well. So I think that as well drives that even further.
And with the as we discussed earlier, seismic changes in the industry, would you say to somebody who's a new entrant, this is a good time to enter the industry? And if you would encourage somebody, how do you think they should go about it?
Oh, it's hard at the moment, isn't it? Especially when you hear so many people who are struggling to find work. I think anyone wanting to get into the industry, they need to be more agile and more willing to adapt than they've ever been before. So it's coming in with that right attitude and being willing to embrace any changes that come and work around things evolving because it's that personality type that really makes a difference. When we're hiring at Wild Child, it's less about existing skills and portfolios in it. It's more about an attitude and a willingness to be part of something. And we're having to change all the time. And people who've come and I'm a rigger and that's all I do, it's much harder then to kind of shift and have a long-term position if things have to expand and contract. So I'd just say be much more go with the flow and energetic. And I think that will go a long way. Much more generalist than really specific in your role.
That's interesting. And I suppose those are traits as you're looking, looking out across the people who work in your studio. That's what helps, I suppose, spot people who might be ready for the next step up, a willingness to adapt, maybe a willingness to sort of just go that little bit extra above and beyond the call of duty.
Yeah, it's a curiosity, isn't it? It's like an energy to want to make great things and the people in the studio who come in and they like kind of looking over shoulders or they'll hear a bit of a conversation and they'll ask for more info. It's that's exciting. And you'll want to involve them in more conversations because of that. Um, Admittedly, that's not for every personality type. There are people that won't be comfortable in those situations. So for us as a studio, we need to be as inclusive as possible to allow everybody to have a voice. And that's something we're working on quite a lot. But I think it's just that excitement and wanting to be part of Wild Child and what we're doing that we look for the most.
And is that easier post lockdown when everybody was working remotely? Because obviously you've got more people working together, in the same environment. So you can sort of see what they're up to and gauge what they're up to, and they can ask colleagues and peers and other people for advice and things like that.
Yes, I mean, it is always easier in person, but I think people can shine wherever they are, so we've got lots of remote workers who, just in the way that they, in the way that they work, that in the way that they communicate with their teams, and in how they problem solve issues with technology or pipeline or clients, or it's I think it can shine through regardless. Definitely easier in person, but yeah, I've got lots of people that have been 100% remote with us for a while, and yeah, it's easy to see them shine.
Excellent. Now I have to ask you one last question, very important question. Could I ever achieve the Adho Mukha Shavasana? I hope I said that right.
Did you have to Google the spelling of that?
I did, I'm afraid, yeah.
Do you even know what it is?
Is it the downward dog?
It is.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Anyone can do down dog. Yeah, maybe you can have a little. We'll do a class in Annecy.
Oh, fabulous! I'm about to cancel my flight, but thank you very much.
Take some photos, send it out to the Festivus crowd. I'm sure they'll love it.
Yeah, I'm sure Rob wants to keep his Festivus crowd and not lose them. So, but thanks for the suggestion.
Rob can come and do the class too.
Well, there you go. Mr. Doherty, there's a challenge. Sueann, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your, I know, incredibly busy schedule to talk to me today. It's been a real delight. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. No, it has been a pleasure. I was nervous at the beginning, but you've made it nice and fun. Thank you for that.
Huge thanks to Sueann for making the time to talk to Julian. I'll report back on how the yoga session goes once I'm walking again. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast as well as share it with your colleagues and friends. And if you have any suggestions for executive level guests you'd like to hear from, or just want to tell us how much you're enjoying the series, then why not drop us a line at aloha@fstvs.net. And the show wouldn't happen at all without the wonderful work of Janet Belmforth at Libery Consulting for her incredible organisational skills, to Julian Scott at Film London for his charm, wit and talent as our host. Find out more about Film London at filmlondon.org.uk. And the edit skills of Odelia Sickinger, who is also an awesome kids development and production executive. Find her on LinkedIn. Thank you all, and see you in the funny pages.